All right, our next New England Patriots 2024 NFL Draft target is going to be Thor Griffith out of Harvard University, D-tackle / edge. This guy's emerged as a formidable presence on the Crimson's defensive line, and he's captured a lot of attention because of his exceptional athletic prowess. This guy's solid, 6'2", 320, all right? Solid dude, high motor, and shows up on the tape. He's established a physical presence, and you see it on the field. Now, his speed is impressive. 40-yard dash, 4.95. You got a 10-yard split on that of 1.65. His shuttle, 4.57. And this is at 320 pounds. Next, talking about bench, seen him do 500. And also, 225 pounds for reps, 45 times. Yes, 45. I think that's going to be a combine record, if he gets that. Now, he is positioned, like I said, as defensive tackle. He's a team captain. The big thing is, besides his physical prowess, his stats back it up. And it's been growth year over year. All right, so he's trending in the right direction. Now, for 2023, thus far, the most recent data, he's got 19 solo and 47 total tackles. All right, and out of that, 9 tackles for loss with 2.5 sacks, several QB hits. All right, now for the career, he's tracking for, he has 58 solo, 124 total. All right, 31.5 tackles for loss and 12.5 sacks. So he's got the stats. Now, another thing is that when you watch him play, you watch the tape, it's his explosion and that short range quickness. Plus, he's got some solid balance. All right, he's got some solid flexibility as well. His agility is obviously right on the tape. Now, he's remarkable with getting off the ball. I think that's obvious. And he's also very aggressive, high motor. And the guy always requires double teams. This versatility enables him to be seamlessly adapt to various positions on the defensive line. You can see him everywhere, showcasing adaptability and football IQ from basically the 0 techniques all the way out to 5. Now, Thor's prowess extends beyond the physical. He has demonstrated a high football IQ. He's able to process plays and blocking schemes like that. He reacts promptly to the influence on the play and disrupts defensive gaps. His play strength is evident in engagements with offensive linemen where he can effectively push them back, leveraging his position and closing the gap. This guy's also able to recruit that power to shed blocks and rack up plenty of solo tackles from the D-tackle position. Another thing I want to bring back is his competitive nature, the high motor, and that just tenacity. You could see it on the field. Now, looking at what he could do at the NFL level, I could see him going from everything from nose tackle all the way out to a 4 or 5. I'm serious. He could do a 3-4 or a solid 3 tech in an even front. Now, why would the Patriots target him? Thor's defensive capabilities are apparent. His explosive movements off the stance, coupled with solid strength and active hands at the point of attack, define him as a player who excels in critical moments, making him an invaluable asset for any team. And I think the Patriots can see that. His growth over the years is undeniable, and just even last year, he had 12 tackles for loss and 5 sacks. And this year looks solid despite being double-teamed constantly. Put in the fact that he's going to be one of the biggest freaks at this year's Combine or in Pro Days. Plus, I think he's a potential Senior Bowl candidate. Overall, Thor is a legitimate NFL prospect. Now, you might be saying, we don't need a D-tackle. Well, kinda. Maybe in terms of contracts for 2024 and free agency, but man, besides Barmore, this D-line has been absent this year. You got Keon White and Barmore, and Dietrich Wise shows up, and yeah, Godchow has his solid, games here and there. Yeah, those guys have shown some impact, but in general, these guys have struggled. I mean, Aquale, which we can't really blame for him right now, but I mean, Farms and Roberts, they're doing okay, but not exactly needle movers. Godchow, guys getting paid. I mean, again, our D tackles are not going to rack up a lot of stats the way they play and what their assignments are, but still, it's just sometimes I'm watching them and I'm watching, all 22, and I'm seeing them get blown back by a guard one-on-one. Lawrence Guy, getting in there, doing some stuff here and there, but, reliable D tackle for us. But at the same time, we need needle movers. Reliable is great, but if you're never ever doing anything, you're reliably absent in many ways, right? Or just holding a spot. But in general, almost all these guys have struggled this past year. Now, another thing I need to point out is that the 2025 list of free agents is a big concern at the D tackle position. Godchow would be up. Barmore would be up. Lawrence Guy would be up. And Aquali will be all up after next season. This is a lot of bodies to replace. Yes, we do have Roberts, we do have Farms to put in there, but picking up a guy like Thor could really help us out in 2024 and be critical in 2025 if he's tracking well. Plus, I need to remind you, Thor has played out on the edge. Now, he's 320 pounds, but you have to respect that versatility. Last but not least, this guy's a local kid. Went to Harvard, grew up in Portsmouth, so he has no problem playing in the Northeast. Things to just think about, right? Now, where would they draft him? We would obviously have to wait for day 3 if we are going to draft him, possibly UDFA. Obviously, we need to address the offense and fill in some of the 2024 free agent concerns as well. We do have to consider the QB, the wide receiver, offensive tackle, tight end, a running back. Even on the defensive side, there's probably higher priorities in terms of getting possibly a replacement for edge and still finding some guys that can help us out at safety. I understand there's plenty of needs. But here's the thing. Thor could be that late round talent that you just can't pass up. Again, you don't want to be finding multiple guys next year, right? To fill in the guys that we're possibly losing in 2025. You might want to start building that pipeline again. Thor could help us out with that this year. All right, let's look at some tape. All right, looking at Thor's tape, real quick, don't pay attention to the X's and O's here. You just need to say, hey, can this guy play at the NFL level? I think we've gone through 3 major filters already. 1, measurables. He's 6'2", 320. Check. Does he have the physical attributes, the talent to play? Guy's probably going to be top 5, testing at the combine and or pro day. Big check there. Probably going to be one of the top guys in the whole entire draft in terms of physical attributes. 3, does he have the stat line? Absolutely. And he has the growth year over year. And the only thing that's really taken a step back is his sacks this year. But that's actually kind of a highlight in a way when you watch the tape because he doesn't have Truman Jones next to him. Last year he had Truman Jones working with him, who's now in the Chiefs. They kind of shared the attention up front. This year, although he's not getting as many sacks, he's still getting some. But the big thing is he's getting double teamed on almost every single pass rush situation, on every third down. And sometimes triple teamed with the running back being a safety net behind the double team. And he still moves it back. Like he still drives, those guys anchor up and he's still bulldozing them back. And he's collapsing the pocket from north to south, right? So the depth of the pocket's collapsing. And it's giving his edge guys time to take that quarterback who's now doing a deeper drop, who can't step up in the pocket. They meet the pincer, he feels the pressure, and a lot of times you watch all these interceptions that happen on Harvard. It's because there's some solid pass rush, and it's because, a lot of times it's because Thor is collapsing that pocket, and he's feeling the quarterback's feeling the pressure, right? So that's things to look at. It's not just like the big hits, the one-arm tackles, just grabbing a guy from, on his thigh and ripping him down. The sacks, obviously, those are important. But if you go and just watch in general the whole tape of some of these Harvard games, you'll just see how he is not just the cornerstone, but like really the motor of the defense. And I'm not taking away from the rest of their defense. They have solid players at Harvard. But it's kind of just like if you didn't have him, the defense would be a different machine. It would be a different thing. And yeah, I mean, that's Harvard's probably, I think this weekend versus Yale, they're going to determine who's going to be the champion. So he's kind of one of the main reasons why, they're in this situation of potentially being Ivy League champs. So I think there's more than enough evidence for this guy to be an NFL player. Now, yeah, he comes from FCS, he comes from Ivy, so I have to admit that put some questions. Can this guy, be this impactful at the NFL level? I don't think anybody's really going to expect that, but that kind of moves him back from being, if he had those types of numbers and testing and measurables, and he was, ACC, SEC, player, obviously Big Ten, basically anything, any FBS conference, if he had those numbers, people would be probably thinking of him being probably a day 2 pick. But now I think, I have to put him at day 3 for that reason. And that's not just because of where I think he is. I think that's where you can still target him. And it's also just a deep draft, right? It's a very, very deep draft. And also for the Patriots, that's where we're going to probably want to target some defensive guys. Because if this thing really ends up with only a handful of wins this year, and we are getting a top 1 or, first or second or third pick, and we are going the quarterback route, you can't have the quarterback come in, a rookie quarterback come in with what's going on right now on the offensive side of the ball. Because, again, I talked about this in a previous video. It's a pitfall right now, right? So you have, offensive line having some free agency, obviously not being great in general. So you have 2 problems. It's a weak unit, and at the same time, you're potentially losing 2 of your best players. And then on top of that, wide receiver, your best wide receiver is coming back from ACL and also a free agent. So there's an issue there. You also have your running backs. You have 2 guys out of your 3, 2 of your 3 running backs being free agents. Don't know what's going to be happening with them. Tight ends. All 3 of your tight ends up for free agency next year, right? And Hunter Henry being the best tight end in free agency. So you're going to be paying him more, or you're letting go of Gesicki, or if you want to bring Gesicki back or Pharaoh Brown back, maybe that would be a big win to bring those guys back at a decent contract, but it's possible they're going after a tight end. So quarterback, at least 1 wide receiver, at least 1 tackle, possibly a tight end, possibly a running back. So you got, 5 picks, and we need probably doubles on wide receiver, right? So that's moving defense back a lot, right, in terms of the draft. So here you go. You can actually go get a D tackle to help you out. Now, why would we go after Thor? Why would it be a D tackle? I mean, it could be anybody, right? But if you're targeting some of these other defensive players, they might be gone. So you better keep an eye on this guy. And another thing is that D tackle is going to be an issue next year. At the end of the year, there's 4 guys that are going to be up for free agency. You got Barmore, Godchow, so your 2 starting D tackles, Aquali and Guy, who are your veterans right behind them. So there's your issue there. You have 4 veteran, or Barmore would be off as rookie, but Barmore, you're going to make a decision on him, how much you're going to pay him. Godchow, God knows if you want to keep him around. I mean, you paid him enough, and we're getting what out of it. Guy probably would be done. Aquali, don't know, but if you have a rookie, you're going into the end of 2025 and you have a rookie that showed some promise, and these guys go in and like, oh, you're losing a lot of guys. If you want me to go, you don't want me to go, you're going to have to pay me. And you'd be like, yo, I got this guy. So it gives you, a little bit of leverage in negotiations, and just in case guys are just like, I'm done. So there's that. Honestly, it's important, I think, that we at least go out at least in the day 3 looking at some D tackles, ones that are physical freaks that might take some development. Now him, I think, again, I'll say the physical side of it is no question. Explosive, high motor, technique is solid, but could still develop, obviously. And the football IQ is there. And then just the general IQ is there. A guy goes to Harvard. So I don't see how there's any problems here. He's a local kid, plays at Harvard, knows, deals with the weather. There's no surprises here. All these other things that, small, second, third tier concerns, not there. I don't expect this guy to be a problem with showing up to meetings. I don't think that's going to be a problem. Do we want any of those guys? Can we just get those solid guys that we don't have to worry about in the day 3? 2. I mean, I know day 3 is when you can probably pick up the booties, or you pick up the Jack Jones guys where you're like, we'll see, this might be a gamble, and if you lose them, you lose them. It sucks to lose Jack Jones, it sucks to lose some of these guys, but they're a little bit questionable, but they're day 3 guys. But also, it's nice to pick up solid dudes that you don't have to worry about in day 3. And that's another thing that we're at this pitfall situation, and I'm going to try to do this real quick. We're at this pitfall where we've had a couple bad drafts, This last one was decent, but we don't know. Like, we have to, really, it's the year over year. You have to go like 3 years down the road where you can start seeing, where did their growth as overall as the draft class for your team, where was the growth kind of starting to fade? Are they still going? That's when you get a good draft. But the thing is if you're going to really make a turnaround and have a relatively good value, cheap team that then you can go out and have some extra cash to get those big time needle mover free agents to be the cherry on the top that gets you over the top, you're going to need 2 or 3 good drafts in a row. They don't have to be perfect, but you can't have kind of like, the previous 2 drafts, not this last one, but the ones prior to that, where the vast majority of your guys are either gone, cut, still on the practice squad, or, quote unquote busts thus far. Hopefully this upcoming draft, you can be the second consecutive decent draft. And now you'd have 2 or 3 draft classes in a row of showing growth, right? And then you can get those free agents that really lift everything up. And then you can maintain, multiple shots at playoffs and Super Bowls and championships and everything by having that growth coming from your draft. But then you're also, when these guys get to the end of their, rookie contracts, if you want to trade them off, get some more draft capital, you can kind of keep the whole idea just turning over versus the capitulation problem, which is we had some bad free agency and bad drafts. And this is what you get. All you really needed was a few bad injuries, and look what happened. You went from being a playoff competitor to being bottom of the league. Because you have nothing. You're falling down into nothing. It's a pitfall, like I said. And it can happen again. 2025 is another pitfall year, except it won't be offensive. It'll be defensive. And if you don't have at least, you got to have some defensive guys coming from the draft. And I think this last draft and this one could be at least a few guys that when you go into it, you're not falling off. You don't have to force yourself to go buy a fading free agent who's falling apart and, is injured. But anyway, I'm going to cut it off here. Sorry, I didn't really get into too much of the technique side of Thor, but maybe it's more of a discussion of why we would be targeting him. And it's just a smart, good idea to be looking at D tackles at the end of the draft. It's a deeper class, and the other, positions are real deep that you might be able to get somebody like this in like 5, 6, 7. I doubt he'll make it to UDFA because he'll probably get to a bowl game, and certainly his combine and pro testing is gonna make him at least a 6th or 7th round pick. So, if the Patriots do want him, he might be a 5th or 6th rounder. Thankfully at this point would be a little bit higher up in the draft in the order in those rounds, so maybe we can get him then. You don't have to make any drastic moves. We'll see. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. Keep an eye on Thor. See what's going on, if he's getting into any Pro Bowls or Senior Bowls, and then also just keep an eye on when it's combine time and pro day. It's going to be impressive. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. Hopefully it was at least educational. And if you guys like this content, please like and subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching.